Well, good eves. How's it going there? Happy March 1st, 2018. Today was supposed to be, what am I saying today? Tonight was supposed to be a full moon, where that big luminous circular object up in the sky appears most full. But as happens so often around here, bloody overcast. Good thing is I got out last night and I took some experimental things with the thermometer thing. Wait. This little thingy does temperature measurements. 27.3 degrees on my carpet right here at this moment. My foot is 33 point. Geez, I'm cooling down rapidly. It was 33.3. And all of a sudden, I'm only 32. Oh, it's climbing up again. I'm getting hot and cold here. 33.0, 32.8, 32.7. 32.3, 32.0, 31.6. Holy shit. Oh, I think the battery's going flat. That could explain it. Anyway, my wrist is 33.3. Oh, hang on. I have to let it go. Come on. Get back up there. Yeah. 33. Focus. Fire again. Anyway, in other words, I'm still sweating. I didn't even actually walk very far. Well, I walked about the average. We go about 2 k's down the road. And it never ceases to amaze me how I come to this certain spot through the treed area, and I never really even thought about it, but I'm actually going from the Lismore Shire into the Byron Shire as I'm passing through this very dark part of the road. And when I come out into Byron Shire, that's when I reach this place where I see it's a cross. It's a telegraph pole. Just a pole, just a normal wires for electricity. Damn, I made good beer. And that's where I made a point over a period of several years now of checking to see, as I come into this clearing spot where the telegraph pole is, to see the Southern Cross, which is actually yeah, I don't bend that way. It's inverted that way. Yeah, like that. So that's how it's usually appearing, but it changes throughout the year, and it's never in exactly the same place. I often harp on how it is, but it's more or less in the same place, which, as I keep saying, doesn't really matter whether it's exactly the same place or slightly here, slightly there, slightly here. The thing is, if we're on a fucking spinning ball going around the fucking sun, and we're on the other fucking side of it, facing the other fucking way, there's no way we'd be looking at the same motherfucking Southern Cross every night of the year. Pardon my English. So, that's just one thing I wanted to get off my chest, that we see the Southern Cross here in Australia, not far from Byron Bay, at the edge of Byron Shire and Lismore Shire, in the same place every night, every year of the year, all year round, even on a full moon night. Well, okay, so I didn't see it tonight, and I probably wouldn't have seen very much of it had it not been cloudy everywhere. But the other cool thing tonight was, okay, so it's cloudy, so I don't get to go and watch a beautiful moonrise. I don't get to see diminished stars because of the luminous moon. because it's collecting sunlight. Yeah. This is one thing where I and a lot of flat earthers disagree. So when everybody on these other globalist channels that I often comment on start saying that you and your movement don't know shit, blah, blah, blah. There is no movement. I'm me. I'm an individual. I may happen to believe the earth is flat. I may happen to acknowledge myself as a flat earther, but it doesn't for 1 second mean I agree with every bloody other thing that every other flat earther believes in, not for a moment. They say that the moon is self-illuminating and creates a cool light. I say, you're fucking kooky. You may have got one thing right, understanding that the earth is flat and stationary. You know, that's one thing, but then to go and start inventing other ideas about what the moon is and what it does, that's where we disagree. I believe 100% it is illuminated by the sun. It is sufficiently high above us to be lit by it all night long, every night, and mostly through the day, because it's only this one night of the month where it will appear all night long. And in fact, it turns out that the full moon precisely is 11:30 in the morning tomorrow, the 2nd of March, Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, which would be 10:30, I think. Yeah, 10:30 Standard Time. But because we believe that cutting one end off the blanket and stitching it to the other end makes a longer blanket, we have daylight savings. Yeah, that's not my original thought at all. I stole that from an ancient American Indian quote. Yeah, quote. So anyway, I do wish to specifically thank everybody that does hang out with me. Obviously, you're never going to get more than half an hour of your lives wasted at a time anytime you click on one of my videos, and more than likely you won't watch it through anyway, because I notice most of the people that comment on them start commenting about stuff which I get to in a roundabout way before I finished my actual video. So, you know, it does pay, if you're going to comment, to at least listen through, and if you don't, that's cool. I will hopefully make more interesting and better content as time goes by. I learn to edit, so you won't have to sit with me having a drink. In fact, I might even learn to do more than just hit pause from time to time as a way of editing my videos. Bloody hell, it is so hot and sticky. Sorry, but So anyway, this is 1st of March here in Australia. We should be entering into the cool season in another month or two, and it looks as though we're not going to get too many severe cyclones this year, because around this time last year, it's sort of coming into cyclone season. We could still get one, so fingers crossed we don't, because last one absolutely devastated, like the town where I go to now, in Lismore, where I'm doing my TAFE course. We're up on the 2nd story. The entirety of the 1st story went underwater last year when it flooded, so we don't want that to happen again. I know what's happening. I got a spider web across my face, and do you think you can ever pick it all off? No, it's going to drive me nuts all night. So just forgive me if I look like I'm scratching myself constantly. It's almost like it's up my nose. Yeah, I was nearly going to talk about something that happened at lunchtime today, but I think it's best not. Yeah, I think charity begins at home. And the people that need charity the most are generally the ones that ask for it the least, until they're desperate, and then they look desperate, and then it looks bad. Because, everybody, I think we're all sort of struggling in our own way. And I guess the best way I can think of it is that we've all probably heard that story. I've talked about it myself before, where, yeah, this guy was presumably in a coma or whatever, and he was taken by an angel and shown the afterlife. And the angel said, I'm going to show you, two different places. One will be heaven, one will be hell, and I just want to show you what they're like so you can tell me what the difference is. And the first place he got taken to was, it was a beautiful clearing in the forest, and deep down in the ground was a big fire pit with the most beautiful smelling food coming out, emanating, just smelt so great. And all the people sitting around it had this giant long-handled spoon, but it was so far down that by the time they reached down into it to try and get a bit of food to their mouth, it all trickled down the handle, and they couldn't even get so much as a single drop of this beautiful food sitting down there. And then, of course, the angel took the person to the next place, and the exact same scenario. I'm not telling the story very well, am I? But as I say, you've probably heard it. All the people, they were, absolutely miserable, starving, grumpy, fighting with one another because they were all trying to get to this food, but they couldn't get to it. Then he goes to the next place, and the same scene is set before him, except all these people there are happy and laughing, jovial, well-fed, all looking really well. And so the angel looks at the man and says, do you see what the difference here is? And the man looks for a while and says, yeah, it's quite obvious that all the people are feeding one another. They're not trying to feed themselves. And so this is the point I'm getting to, is that if we all just give a little bit to one another, when we can see they're hungry and in need, it will come back to you. So I'm not asking for anything personally. I'm just saying that if you've got a little bit more in your spoon than you need currently, and you can spare a little, I'll make sure it goes in the right channels. Because one thing I think we shouldn't do is big note ourselves for what we give away. So I'm not going to do that, and I hope you're not going to do that. And I know that's only little people who make a big deal about what they give away. So give, be quiet. That's all I can say. And know that it's going to the right places, the right channels, where it counts. That's what I was going to get back to then tonight about the moon, because I love talking about the moon, is that it was really overcast, and so it was a little bit disappointing, but it just made me more appreciative of the moment, because I think that's what we miss so often. We don't just stop and look and appreciate the moment. And so while I decided to go out with my thermometer and maybe do a few more tests, and just for my own benefit, and just look at a beautiful moon, because I don't have good enough camera equipment to take decent pictures, but what I saw, I don't think you could actually capture on a camera. And I'm really quite grateful for that, because what I saw tonight was unique, and hopefully you might get to see it. Hopefully you might get to appreciate it. There are some moments, and I think that's why an artist likes to take a picture or likes to make a beautiful painting or capture something on video, because they want to share the beauty that they see in the world with others. And there are other times where we see something, which we cannot capture, we cannot share with others, and maybe I can wax eloquently enough to make you wish you were there with me, so so you could see what I saw. And what I saw in the clouds tonight, because the full moon is shining above them, and the clouds are all different variations of thicknesses and water content, darkness, lightness and whatnot. It was almost as though there was a massive halo almost filling the entire sky, especially when I looked slightly to the northwest, west sort of way, knowing that the moon was over there, just still coming up from the east. You could see this big ring of light in the sky. It was quite incredible. But it wasn't fixed, because the clouds themselves were, random. They were just being clouds. And so what effect it sort of gave overall, especially because there's light and dark patches everywhere, it's kind of like a marbled effect. It's the word that came to me at the time as I'm looking at it. It's like kind of like a marbled sky, but hard to explain. You can only explain it by seeing it, and because I'm the only one there at the time, out looking at it, I got to see something quite spectacular and unique, and I can't share that with you, and nobody else is ever going to see what I saw. So this is what I'm talking about. This is why each one of our lives is so unique, so special. If you've got this ability to be the artist, to stop and appreciate what you're seeing at the time, at any given moment in time. And it reminded me so much, because I started thinking about how we always talk about perspective, and because it's another thing I often get into heated debates about with people, is it reminded me kind of when I was in Hong Kong. We were in this airport, and I don't know how many kilometres down this long hallway we walked. It had moving sidewalks in it, which it could go on for like several hundreds of metres before you'd hop off that one, and then there'd be another one. It was a massive, massive, massive long hallway. And after a while, it took me a little bit, because I'm just still a little jet lag type of thing, and I says to me mate, I says to him, bloody hell, if you look right down that corridor, it goes into the vanishing point, and you turn around and look the other way, does exactly the same thing. It was that long that our range of vision cannot see that far. However, I do have a little gift, and I don't know exactly how you describe it, but I have this gift of being able to focus on a distant object. So I could look right down that corridor. I think I used to practice as a child, actually using a mirror, in front of a mirror, and trying to get it to that point where you can look into infinity. Look as far as you can. It's a trick of the eye and the mind to be able to, you actually project yourself. You can't physically see that far, but your eyes can sort of come out of your head and project themselves that far away. Astral travelling, maybe. Projection, I don't know, but it's you sort of have to concentrate, so you put your body into auto mode, so just walking along. And then, of course, thinking of this reminded me of another event where I did a similar sort of thing, and I've done it several times, looking out at the ocean. The very first time I was probably only about 16 or 17, where I went to this place up at Yakabar, where I used to live, down at Hawk's Nest, the north headland of Port Stephens, just north of Newcastle. And when you get over the other side of Yakabar, it gets quite steep. But on a really clear day, and by gosh, we had some clear days, you could sit and look out across the ocean, and look and look and look. There is no curvature. The water is flat and level, and the more you look, the longer you look, the further you can see. And then again, this is what I'm getting back to about how I can tell for a fact, because when you're looking into infinity, it's hard to tell unless you've got reference points. This is why all the globeheads always talk about frames of reference and all this sort of shit, because they say that the Earth can be travelling at 2.2 million miles an hour, but it doesn't mean anything because it's only in reference to Moon and the Sun that it's going this particular speed, but this massive speed doesn't matter because there's no inertial frame of reference and all this bloody other nonsense they come up with to try and describe the fact that they think the very first speed we're going at is faster than sound. Yeah, but there's no sound in space, so it doesn't matter. You know, there's all this bullshit that you have to believe in for the spinning ball to even work. So anyway, give me a second. There was a particular day where I spent a long time in meditation, longer than usual, simply because it's something I felt like doing. I had this relationship with a particular tree for a very long time. It was a tree that was very difficult to, what I say, conquer or beat, because I saw it from a distance. As soon as I saw it, I fell in love. It's like, that's a beautiful tree. That's the tree I'm going to go and develop a spiritual relationship with. And I wanted to climb it, but it had really long, tall trunks, 2 of, and the lowest branches were way, way, way too high. I don't know if I need to tell this whole story, but bloody hell, I've started now. So it took me a long time going and admiring this tree, looking at it, trying to get to know it, to, you know, because it was forked, as so many of these particular types of trees that grow in the sandhills around Byron are. They're nearly all forked. You know, I just walked past one yesterday after I had to abandon my bike down the road. Another story. Same type of tree. They're all forked, and then they develop this well in the middle so that they can capture water. That's why they can survive for so long, as they do in, say, sand dunes, where the soil is really poor and the water often rapidly gets away. And so this particular one, in its fork, had a branch sort of wedged in between it, and I had this little tool. In fact, I've probably got it somewhere over there. It's irrelevant. It's just a little multi-tool, but it had a little hammer on one end, and because I couldn't get this stick out, I thought, oh, I've got my multi-tool here. I'm just going to take this out and just tap, 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 tap to get the stick out. And oops, it fell out of my hand, and it fell into the well of the tree. So I put my hand down in it, comes out all wet. Couldn't reach the bottom. It took me several attempts of going back, trying to find a way to get it. I got it back eventually by using one of those plastic coated wire coat hangers, stretching it out, and I managed to hook it out. I got it eventually. It was a challenge. So this is how my relationship started with this particular tree. But trying to climb it, I thought about taking a rope, but no, I couldn't even see a place where I could throw a rope over and try and pull myself up, because it was just too far up this really straight, slippery trunk. But eventually what I found is next to it, just in the canopy, was what I've come to call the companion trees. And all of these trees seem to have this companion tree. It's a different species, and it's very spindly and not very strong, but I could climb it. And I could climb it just high enough to the point where I had to take a massive leap of faith to reach the lowest branch of this tree. And that, again, took me several goes. And that's why I drink, because I needed to get drunk to gain the confidence to do something ridiculously stupid like that. So that's what I did. Eventually, I got drunk enough, and I went, right, I'm doing this. And it was such an empowering thing to do, because just climbing this spindly little tree to start with was quite challenging, but I'm a good tree climber. You know, I've always been a tree climber. So eventually I got there, stood on this branch, bounce, 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 leap, grab the branch. Yes, and now I've got to pull myself up, of course. It's like, you can't just hang there and think, oh, you've got somewhere. You know, that's the first bit, but I'm pretty good. Wrapping a leg up around, got into this tree, and once in the canopy, oh, absolute bliss. But the tree herself, she was screaming. She was furious. She was like, how dare you? Like, these trees are living entities, and she had been so good at protecting herself for so long. Nobody had ever dared step into her branches before. So that's how I got to know this tree. So this one particular day, rather than climbing up her and feeling her fury, because she really didn't like it, even though I loved being up there, it was just beautiful and gorgeous, swaying in the breeze and looking around, I decided to meditate against her. But what I did, instead of my normal just sitting type meditation, I got on my head. Okay, it's a clothes optional sort of place, and I was clothes optional at the time, opted out. Put my head against her on the ground and did a headstand, put my whole naked body up against her. And then as I'm meditating, I could feel my head sinking into the ground, like both physically and metaphysically. Like it was sort of sinking in a bit because it's really soft, loamy sand type of material, but the longer I meditated, the more I felt myself sinking into the ground and then tapping in to this amazing ancient wisdom from the trees. The trees have been here far, far longer than any other living creature in this realm. And they just gave me this amazing sort of knowledge, which I can't put it into words. There are no words for it because it's beyond words. It's just a knowing that comes from the trees, from the earth itself, from ancient times. And as a result of this meditation, it was in physical time only half an hour or so, but how it was to me was thousands and thousands of years. When I went over to the ocean, just a little bit further on where I normally go, because this is usually on my trek to the ocean, which I did daily, a most bizarre thing happened. And I have described this in other videos, so you have to look back in them to hear the full story, because I can see I'm quickly running out of time. Got a minute and a bit left. Is that there were many, many whales coming in doing this tail slapping thing. And the more I looked out to sea, where I could see more and more and more whales coming in, the more I looked, the more I could see. To the point where I was seeing, these massive spouts coming from these humpback whales, a massive stampede of them coming in, is I was able to teleport myself, telegraph, I don't know what the word, just astral travel, look and see. Like I could leave my body standing in the dunes, because I was trying to leave. It was getting later and later in the day. It was like 12 p.m. by now. Sun's coming down. But the more I looked, the further I could see. And I was looking, I can only say, hundreds of kilometres away, watching whale spouts coming in. It was literally hundreds. And that sort of thing you cannot see on a globe that doesn't even allow you to see more than 3 miles away before it curves away in the distance. I was seeing into infinity, communicating with this awesome stampede of whales. And I saw my old friend Migaloo again. So yeah, please do look through my old videos to find the one about Migaloo, because that's a really special story. Nobody believed me. I was only about 13 or 14 when I first saw Migaloo. And I believed in it. I got ridiculed for years. Oh, you can see a white whale under the Tea Gardens Singing Bridge in the Mile River. 10 years before he was first spotted just beyond there at Port Stephens. I'm not trying to make a big claim to fame or anything, but that's something. Anyway, thanks for listening. Talk to you again soon.